Shalom and welcome back to Scripture and Prophecy. I'm your host Sean, and the website is www.scriptureandprophecy.com. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. And we're reading today chapter 29 out of the book of Bereshit, that is to say Genesis. And what we're ready for is we had Jacob and Esau, and we had this scenario where, Jacob's mom convinces him to go in and deceive his father and steal the firstborn blessing from Esau, and then the rumor gets out that Esau, as soon as his father passes, is going to kill his brother Jacob. And so his mother pleads with Isaac to send Jacob away to her brother Laban, to his uncle, so that he could actually find a wife to continue the bloodline, which is what Isaac wanted him to do too. And they were really kind of offended and really taken back by Esau and his pagan wives. He had two Hittite wives, and then he goes and gets him a third wife from the descendant of Ishmael. And so he's just really, he's definitely not the one to continue this promise of Israel and the 12 tribes. And well, that's where we're at today. Last week we ended with Jacob on his way on his travels to his brother, or his uncle Laban, to search for him, and he has this vision that we know of Jacob's ladders of angels descending and ascending, and God makes this promise to him that, hey, just like I promised, Abraham and Isaac, I'm going to do this thing through you. And so that leaves us where we are today. And so we're going to be reading from chapter 29, not a real long chapter, but then tomorrow's reading is chapter 30, which is quite a bit longer. I'm reading from the Art Scroll Tanakh. It's a Hebrew-English parallel. It's great if you want to be able to read the Hebrew next to the English, if that's something that you're into. One thing I do advise is be wary of the commentary, because a lot of it's just Jewish rabbinic opinion, and it's not necessarily based on Scripture. However, some of it is pretty interesting and pretty enlightening. But I just like to tell that up front, because you can get real lost and find yourself in Judaism real quick if you don't have that understanding going in. But it's very, very helpful if you want to see the actual Hebrew words. And for example, we're going to be reading about Rachel, Laban's daughter, and her name is actually Rachel. Resh Het Lamed is how you spell her name, Rachel. And we say Rachel in English. And it's fun for me. I don't know. I like to go over into the Hebrew part and see if I can find the names and find the sentences and try to, it really helps you if you're interested in learning that. It's very, very helpful, because all you need to know is a few words to find the sentence that you're looking for, and you can start to try to figure some of this stuff out. So, at any rate, let's do what we came here to do. Chapter 29 of the book of Genesis, Bereshit. Verse 1. So Jacob lifted his feet, and he went toward the land of the Easterners. He looked up, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, their flocks of sheep lay there beside it. For from that well they would water the flocks, and the stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks would be assembled there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well in the water and water the sheep. Then they would put back the stone over the mouth of the well in its place. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know." Then he said to them, "Is it well with him?" They answered, "It is well. And see, his daughter, Rachel is coming with the flock." He said, "Look, the day is still long, and it is not yet time to bring the livestock in. Water the flock and go on grazing." But they said, "We will be unable to until all the flocks will have been gathered, and they will roll the stone off the mouth of the well. We will then water the flock." One thing that I found interesting is, just like Isaac's wife Rebekah was found at a well. Here we have the same scenario. Here's here's Jacob. He comes to this well, and then he sees Rachel coming. This beautiful woman, and it's like a love at first sight type of situation. And what the commentator here of the Tanakh says is that the well represents wisdom. And so I'll just read this little tidbit of commentary here. It says, again, a well is the place where a male is found for a major figure in Jewish history. At a well, Eleazar found Rebekah. And later, Moses met Zipporah at a well. Commentators note that wisdom is symbolized by the water below the ground. It is buried and hidden, but is accessible to those who put in the intense effort needed to bring it to the surface. So I just think it's interesting, that they would both meet these women, or a well would be involved, I guess, with both women. Verse 9. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel had arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And it was when Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, the flock of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came forward and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the sheep for Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel, and he raised his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rebekah's son. Then she ran and told her father. And it was when Laban heard the news of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran toward him, embraced him, and kissed him, and took him in the house. He counted to Laban all these events. Then Laban said to him, "Nevertheless, you are my flesh and blood." And he stayed with him a month's time. Another thing that really sticks out to me is just and this is not, we don't see this in this way really in our American culture, our westernized culture, but this hospitality. I mean, when these people, they've never even met Jacob, but they hear that he's the son of Rebekah, and Laban's like running and hugging him and kissing him and embracing him, and they're making food for him, and it's amazing to me just the love and hospitality that they share for their brothers and sisters, for their own family members. The hospitality is amazing. You see similar hospitality with the servant of Abraham who goes to find a wife for Isaac, and he shows up, and what does Rebekah do? She goes and she waters all of his camels until they're done drinking. Now, I don't know if you know this, but camels can drink for an eternity. So she was working her tail off. And then they bring him in and give him dinner and hay for his camels. And just the hospitality is amazing that I'm seeing within these people. And maybe that's just part of the character of these people, and the character of Abraham and his descendants. And I just find it very, very interesting. Let's see here. Verse 15. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Just because you are my relative, you should serve me for nothing? Tell me, what are your wages?" Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were tender, while Rachel was beautiful in form and beautiful in appearance. Let me see here what Leah's actual Hebrew name was, since I did tell you what Rebekah's was. Let's see. Leah's name, it's spelled Lamed Aleph Hey, and it is pronounced Leah. Leah, so very, very close to the English. Verse 18. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Remain with me." So Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him a few days because of his love for her. That's another thing I find amazing. 7 years. I mean, can you imagine you fall in love with somebody and you're like, okay, I'm going to make a deal where I work 7 years and then I get to have her as my wife. Like, wow. What a different view of time. You know, I mean, maybe it's just a cultural thing here where we kind of expect instant, gratification, instant, whatever it is that we're wanting. So it's 7 years. That's a long time, but it says, Jacob loved Rachel so much that it just seemed like days. The scriptures say it seemed like a few days, that 7 years, because of his love for her. Verse 21, Jacob said to Laban, "Deliver my wife, for my term is fulfilled, and I will consort with her." Verse 22, so Laban gathered all the people of the place and made a feast. And it was in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, and he consorted with her. And Laban gave her Zilpah, his maidservant, a maidservant to Leah his daughter. And it was in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I worked for you? Why have you deceived me?" Now, I can't help it, guys. I have to just say, I don't know if I want to let Jacob off the hook here, because I'm like, you really couldn't tell the difference? I just really struggle with that. Okay, so he brings in Leah instead of Rachel in the night, but you couldn't tell the difference at all. I don't know. Like, I'm finding that hard to believe. But maybe, I mean, that's what the scriptures say, right? He was deceived. He woke up the next morning and, whoa, it was Leah, not Rachel. And then, of course, we have this family dysfunction. I mean, what is Laban doing? His nephew comes and works 7 years for his daughter, and then he tricks him into consorting with his eldest daughter. The whole thing's just kind of strange to me. Let's see, we are ready for verse 26. Laban said, "Such is not done in our place, to give the younger before the elder." Which I'm sure Jacob's thinking, well, that would have been nice if you had told me that I was going to have to marry the older one. Verse 27, "Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other one too, for the work which you will perform for me yet another 7 years." So now Jacob's going to have to work another 7 years for Rachel, which means he's going to have to work 14 years as a servant to his uncle Laban in order to marry the woman he loves. Verse 28, so Jacob did so, and he completed the week for her, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to him as a wife. And Laban gave Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his maidservant, to her as a maidservant. He consorted also with Rachel, and loved Rachel even more than Leah. And he worked for him yet another 7 years. Yahovah saw that Leah was unloved, so he opened her womb, but Rachel remained barren. Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, as she has declared, because Yahovah has discerned my humiliation, for now my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and declared, because Yahovah has heard that I am unloved, he has given me this one also. And she called his name Simeon. Again she conceived and bore a son, and declared, this time my husband will become attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he called the name Levi. She conceived again and bore a son, and declared, this time let me gratefully praise Yahovah. Therefore she called his name Yahudah, that's to say Judah. Then she stopped giving birth. So we see 4 of the tribes of Israel coming out of Leah. Scriptures say that, God had pity on Leah because she was unloved in comparison to the love that Jacob had for Rachel. And she keeps having these kids, and she keeps saying to herself, now my husband's going to love me. Now he's going to love me. I'm getting him 3 sons, But that's just not the case. And of course we see the tribe of Judah, Yahudah, which is where the Jews come from. And we have Levi, Simeon, and Reuben as of right now. And there's going to be 12 tribes that come out of Jacob. So there is chapter 29. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it interesting, as I do find it interesting. And I like to think about these kind of things, Especially this whole situation with Leah and Rachel. I'm just like, really, man? You had no idea? but that is what the scriptures say, isn't it? Well, I hope you're being blessed by the podcast, and if you are, I'd love to hear about it. You can go to scriptureandprophecy.com. That's where all the archives are if you want to listen to some of the other episodes. If you're new to the broadcast, we try to do 3 to 4 podcasts per week, usually one message, prophecy, news type podcast, just depending on how I'm feeling that week. And then I try to do 2 Torah readings. So we did chapter 29 today, and Lord willing, I'll do chapter 30 tomorrow. And then we also have a gospel portion that we do each week, trying to work through all the gospels in a year's time. And so we'll be trying to do that one this week as well. I did a podcast yesterday talking about returning to Jesus, remembering Yeshua, remembering that He is Messiah, and that apart from Him we can do nothing. And apart from His finished and complete work, we cannot be saved. And I really expected mostly just good reviews. I mean, how can people argue with that, right? That's what the scriptures clearly lay out for us. But there was some people who I don't know if they think that some people were actually upset by it. I don't know if they think because they typically come here to hear Hebraic understanding, and then I was all about Jesus. I mean, I don't know what the issue is, but here's the thing, guys. I love the Hebraic understanding and heritage stuff as much as anybody. If you've been listening to my show, you already know this information. My point with the podcast was, while those things are good and helpful and useful, and we can learn a lot of things from them, and we can look at the feast and we can see how they point to Jesus, and we can try to commemorate those feasts and everything, at the end of the day, it's all about Messiah. That's all. At the end of the day, that's really all that's going to matter. Your works are filthy rags before the Lord, is what the scriptures say. We work, we walk in obedience because of our love for Messiah and for the Father. That's what we're doing. So that was the point I was trying to get across. But some people took it the wrong way, and maybe I just didn't do a very good job of portraying the message. People really think I've went in a different direction, and I didn't think that the message declared that I went to a different direction. It was just pointing out that, hey, I've been feeling in my spirit that I've been doing an awful lot of religion lately, and I haven't been truly focused on Jesus, on Yeshua, on what really matters. And so that was the premise and the point of the podcast. And so I thought I would just reiterate that today. Yes, we still look at the Hebrew. Yes, we still try to understand that mindset. Yes, I'm fully aware that Jesus was a Jewish rabbi from the tribe of Judah. I understand those things. But we also need to understand that we are Gentiles saved by grace through faith in Him. We're not saved by works, lest any man should boast. The works that we do are prepared for us by God to walk in them according to the scriptures. And it's out of our love and obedience for the Father and for His Son that we do the things that we do. My point, once more, was let's not get too wrapped up in being religious. If you're more concerned about feasts and Sabbaths and new moons and all in calendars and all than you are about your relationship with the Messiah, whom declares that you have to be in an intimate relationship with Him and that you cannot come to the Father but by Him, then you've got a problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. Well, at any rate, that is the podcast for today, and I hope and pray that you have been blessed, and Lord willing, I'll be back with you again tomorrow. Peace and grace be with all of you, and until next time, God bless.